Hello everybody, Reggie Time here, and there's a slightly different type, well, a very different type of video this morning. We're going to review some hands I played from a morning session. I logged on this morning around 9 o'clock, not expecting to find too much action. Boy, was I wrong. There was tons of action, so we're going to be changing my schedule going forward so I can play more morning sessions. And I thought we'll save some hands, and then we'll save some hands from another session, and then when we get a few hands to review, we'll do a review video. Turns out there were 17 hands during the session that I marked worthy of second glance. Now, some of them will be more interesting than others. Some of them will ask us more questions than others. Some of them probably won't be that interesting upon review. But we've got 17 hands to get through. So yeah, in just a moment we'll start getting through them. Before we do go through them, for anyone who's been watching my videos lately thinking this is a fun looking game, I'd like to get into it. I'd like to take some shots. These games I'm playing here, the 5 ante games, are just $10 buy-ins for 100 antes. Smaller games do run on the apps, so if you would like to take a shot at these games with very low risk outlay, the variance is high, but you could just whack me $50, 10 buy-ins for these games, or you could have 20 or 30 buy-ins some lower stakes games. So very low risk. Guarantee you'll have fun. Guarantee you'll be tearing your hair out. Guarantee you'll be like, fuck me, these games are soft. You won't buy more fun for 10 buy-ins of whatever you want to play, and who knows, it might set you off on a completely new path that significantly increases your poker pleasure and hopefully increases your poker profits. So if you are thinking, fuck it, let's give them a go, let's have a look, please do get in touch and I can hook you up in some incredibly fun games of poker. So here we go, on with the hands. This first hand, this was, I think, literally the first hand of the session, certainly one of the first 2 or 3 hands. I just started this table. This guy is kind of plays daily, so he's a regular, but, well, he wouldn't be my idea of a good player. But anyway, never mind. We're not here really to critique our opponent's play. We're more just to go through my thought processes that I was going through during the hands. So this first time we have King 9 offsuit on the button. This player, who was very aggressive on his HUD stats, has limped in. Sorry, has made it 7 antes. It's a pretty, in fact I say it's a very, very loose defend by me. But this guy had like a very high 60s, possibly 70s VPIP, very aggressive pre-flop, the sort of player you want to be playing hands against in position, and of course it doesn't hurt when you flop the nuts. He pots it. I think our decision here is, do we just call, given that our hand is invulnerable to like an ace? If it comes an ace, then we still have the nuts. Oh, we don't have the nuts now, an ace would give us the nuts. We wouldn't necessarily want to see the board pairing. That's about all we wouldn't want to see. I mean, he can have pocket aces, pocket kings, pocket tens, pocket jacks, pocket... He can have all the sets, basically. He can have all the big pairs. He can obviously also have ace king. We do block that, so not too worried about that. And I don't think he's going to be using this sizing very often with a hand like pocket 8s, pocket 7s. So I think the worst hand he's going to show up with here is pocket 9s again, which we block. So the question is do we just raise now and just get it in against all these sets and things and his 2 pairs before the 4-line straight comes out, or do we risk a card coming off? I can't remember what I did, even though it was only not that long ago, but I think I'd prefer to see myself raise here, maybe even just jam. Because I think when he pots this flop, I think he's going to have something that he's probably not going to want to fold. So I think I'd like to see myself jam. Let's see what I did. Nope, I raised small. And we got it in drawing dead, and then we got the chop. So that was fun. Well played, Reg. What a glorious first hand. We get it in, drawing dead to a chop, and then we get there. That is just how we like to... Well, it's not how we like to do it here at Reggie Time Poker, but it is how we do it sometimes. On to the next hand. We have a Jack 9. We have completed. Sorry, limped from the cutoff. Not sure why there's no sound on this one, but never mind. We flop the second nut. Checks to us, and now we've got sound again. Checks to us with the second nut on a very draw heavy board in was this raised pre? Let me just go back. It looks like we've called a raised pre. Let me just make sure we've got the. I think you're right. So it's gone limp. Right. I see now. So we over limp from the cutoff, and then right. I know this guy now. Anyone in my Facebook chat group will be very familiar with One Bullet. He is action. He's got an 80 plus VPIP pre-flop. He's got a 30 odd percent pre-flop raise. The guy just sets games on fire. It's an awful lot of fun to play with. He's quite often just an all-in pre-flop merchant, but he just sets games on fire, and you want to be in pots with him. So when we've limped here, he made it, whatever he made it, 45. And these other two guys call. We kind of just have to come along with our Jack 9 and just hope to flop something that we can go with against this guy, anything that has equity. If it happens, we flop the straight. I like our bet here that we're about to make. All kinds of worse hands can call. He does call. Turn to brick. He's just jamming the world. We get it in against the Jack 10 on the turn. I mean, his play is completely fine, I suspect. I mean, this guy's another guy, I remember, who's pink tags, who's a pretty loose passive player. So for him, this is a monster. I think his limp call's completely fine pre. I think his flop call, when I make it 175, I think he should probably just jam or fold. What's he got? He's got like a pair. He's up and down. He could be drawing dead already to the ace jack. Unlikely, because I'd probably raise the ace jack pre. So it's unlikely he's drawing dead on the flop. But I think once I make it 175, he's in a jam or fold spot. And in his shoes, I don't know. Against me, who's making it 175, their Jack 10's in rough shape. But in these games in general, against the general population, I think the Jack 10 is probably just going to be a check shove on the flop. Maybe he can contemplate just leading out and trying to put maximum pressure on like ace king, ace queen, because it's not a nice spot. If I was in here somehow, which I wouldn't be, with a hand like ace king or ace queen, which I couldn't be given how the pre-flop action went, but if I was just in with one pair, say, somehow, I wouldn't be in love with like calling an overbet shove. Just say you rip the open shove the flop for 2x pot, I'm going to fold a lot of one pair hands, like ace 10 that he's crushed by, ace queen that he's crushed by. Well, not crushed by, but he's in trouble too. So yeah, I think from his perspective, I would prefer to see him be the aggressor on the flop. I think his check call line is probably the worst line he could have taken, because he just has to get there. He doesn't generate any fold equity. And this game, especially post-flop, well, even pre-flop too, is about having people fold their equity, because they have lots of equity in lots of spots, because hand equities run so much closer together, both pre-flop and post-flop. When you do flop a hand with bits and pieces of equity, I think you're usually better wanting to be the aggressor and having people fold out their equity or pay too much to realise their equity, rather than be the guy that's just checking and calling, because you only give yourself one chance to win then. So yeah, it's a nice second hand. That's two decent ones so far. Here we have the ace jack suited. I expect that I'm going to limp. Which you do. And we don't flop too well here. Oh, I remember this hand. This hand was interesting. The river's the interesting part. So here we have an easy call. There's no denying that. I mean, the only person who can drop too many sevens here, you'd imagine, is the button. Not too many guys are limping hands that contain a seven. Some people will limp like 7-8, 7-6, A7 suited, that type of thing. But, we can't be too scared of the seven on the flop. We turn a full house and we revert like a bigger full house, if you will. Now we've got, instead of having sevens full of aces, now we've got aces full of sevens. But quads is a very real possibility now, because there's been 2 streets of betting, and it's gone like the under the gun player's bet has been called on the A7-7 flop. He's then bet the turn again on the 7. He's been called in 2 spots. So all of a sudden there becomes a very real possibility that a 7 is out there. And so when he bets like 168 on the river into 336, so he's betting half pot. I was genuinely in a quandary. I mean, raising's not an option. There's just no way raising is going to do any good here. We just don't get called by worse. We only get called by an ace or a 7. So it's just like, I was seriously contemplating folding here. I was very concerned the player behind this PP 538-734 guy could have had a 7 from jump, and has just been obviously just like basically dropping the rope down, and I'm like, oh, what's this? Oh, I might put my neck in this rope and hang myself. So I was genuinely concerned. I think if he'd potted it, so we're getting like less of a good price to chop, I think I probably would have folded my hand, because I would have been like very concerned that we're just up against quads, and even though we have like second nuts here, I just think it was, if he's potting it, I don't know. I don't know, but I think I probably would have folded to a pot size bet. I wasn't pleased to see this bet, but I was glad it wasn't larger, and I think I actually went into tanky before calling. We may have dipped into our time bank, which seems bonkers. We got a full house on the river, and we're dipping into our time bank, whether to fold or not. I didn't dip into the time bank, but we did call. Unfortunately, this guy was just airballing from the off, which credit is spunk, I guess. More balls than brains there, I think, from this gentleman or lady. But yeah, I thought that was quite an interesting spot. Probably one of the more interesting spots we're going to find in the video, because it's a spot where I have a full house and I am contemplating folding it on the river. But we have the nut full house, and I'm contemplating folding it on the river, which isn't a sentence you're going to hear yourself saying as a poker player very often. Okay, so this one's played through once already by mistake. So we have the aces here. Probably not going to be a particularly interesting hand. Multiple limpers. We're going to make it 70 at least, Reg, please. Don't make it less than 70. Make it exactly 70. Happy enough with that. And we get 2 callers. So here we have a limped, well, it was a limped pot. We made it 14 antes pre-flop, and we get 2 callers. This Haramai is a player I'm familiar with, very loose, pretty damn bad player. The other guy, I will have had HUD stats on him, but from memory, I know nothing about him. So we've seen like a bet and an all-in in front of us on a 3-line straight board, and we just have pocket aces. Again, in no limit hold'em, I think this is the spot where you just have to cry and just get it in. And if you're up against like a set, then fuck your life. In this game, when there's already like 3-line to a straight out there, Jack 10's a hand that people play a hell of a lot in this game. So we're behind to 2 pairs. We're behind to Queen 9, which, people play 9-7, they play a bit less, but people still play it. So we're behind to all the straights, we're behind to lots of potential 2 pairs, we're behind to all the sets. I think aces here is a pretty trash hand by now. And this is a spot where, in my first week or so playing this game, there's not a fucking chance I would have folded this hand. There's 0 chance. I'd be like, right, here we go, let's go, And I put people on like too many draws, or people like overplaying top pair. Maybe someone limp called queens and done it. There's not a chance I would have got away from this hand. I wouldn't even have contemplated getting away from this hand. But I actually think now I've got more experience in the game, and more importantly, I've actually consumed quite a lot of training content. I'm aware of just what a bad spot this is for us, really. Um, we're not doing very well against two pairs, but that's the best case scenario. Is we're up against a Jack 10 and maybe an 8-10 or something like that. Or maybe we're up against a Jack 10 and a King Queen, and we're just about getting the right price to go with our hand. We're not doing too bad. We're probably close to a flip against Jack 10 on this board. Maybe just a slight underdog, but we obviously will dead money in the pot. Um, we need to take those odds. If you think you're a flip and there's all this money already in the pot, then you just take the odds. I think if Haramai had just bet and the other guy had folded, I think we would have just stacked off here. I'd have just gone, yeah, whatever, let's go for it. Because he can have a lot of two pairs that we've got reasonable equity against. He can have some pair plus straight draw that would do, reasonably well against. We're probably a favourite against that. But when this guy comes in too, I was just like, you know what, we'll probably just need to let this one go. Which, very confident what we did. And as you can see, we would have got it in great shape. I mean, fuck knows what this guy's doing. I have literally, this is just like, right, fold pre to, don't limp pre. Don't overcall 14 antes. Don't go all in over a donk bet on the flop. I mean, every single decision he made in his hand was fucking awful. And that is why these games are so ridiculously good. And it's why anyone who considers himself a advantage play gambler who wants to get in situations where they have an advantage with their gambling, whether that's fucking poker, blackjack, craps, whatever. If you consider yourself somebody who takes gambling seriously and is looking for, like gambling spots where you have fucking big edges, it's why you need to be looking at these games, because you do have. I'm very confident I have a very large edge in this particular player pool I'm currently playing. My results are bearing that out so far, but the variance is fucking huge, And it's what lots of people are scared of, like no limit hold'em players. It's why they don't go to PLO. They know PLO games are better, but they don't want the variance in their life. This is like got probably more variance than PLO, but it's much more similar to no limit hold'em in terms of like what you're used to seeing on the thing. You get two cards, you understand. You don't. It's not as complex. It's as complex as No Limit as Pot Limit Omaha, but it doesn't feel as complex. It feels like a much more simple game. This is a far superior game to both No Limit Hold'em and Pot Limit Omaha, in my opinion. You find so many really bad players. Lots of the regulars aren't that good, to be honest. Me being one of them, although I'm working hard to improve. So if you are a poker player who is like takes themselves seriously, as look, I just want to go where the fucking money is. I want to go where the edge is. I want to go where the most opportunity to make money is. And then, I mean, just look. This is where it's at now. It genuinely is where it's at. I've never tried to give you guys bum steers on this channel. Yeah, I get it. I sell rate back, and I sell soft games. So you might be like, oh, he's just pushing us down this route because it's where he makes most money. That's actually not true. It's a very low raked game compared to some other games. In these clubs, or in this particular club, the rake is only 3%. The rake's really quite low. When you get your little bit of rake back on top of that, then it really is a very low rake environment. I'm not making a ton from it in terms of like rake back from the players that I'm working with. I'm just saying you need to be in these games because they're quite simply they're the best games you'll find anywhere on the internet. And even if you don't want to join me in the clubs, I'm sure the games are very good on GG, on Party, on PokerStars. So if you don't want to like join the underground app world, I understand that, I get that, and I wouldn't push you in that direction. But I am pushing you in the direction of if where you play now offers these games, and like I say, I'm pretty sure Stars, GG, and Party Poker all do offer them. Give them a fucking whirl. If you're a 25-0 player, you've probably got $1,000, in your bankroll, something like that. Maybe $500. Is it really going to hurt you to say, you know what? I'm just going to go and play some 10-cent ante 6+, just one session, see what it's all about. Then fine. If I spunk off fucking 6 buy-ins. I've lost $60. Big deal. But I guarantee you, once you try it, it's like fucking heroin. You'll just be like, bang, I want another go. Bang, I want another go. Bang, I want another go. You'll be like the kid at the fairground. You know, you get off the ride and you run round and you join the back of the queue. You want another go. I promise you, this game is sensational fun. And yeah, when you see things like this, you maybe understand why I've got such a hard on for it at the moment. Anyways, play it out. I mean, this guy's obviously drawing dead, and our aces would have been total cheese. Oop, another one that needs refreshing. So we have the 2 queens here. Andy Larkin, I think's probably a decent regular, one of the better regulars in the game. Whale here. This is the guy who had the 8-6. I mean, we only just have to jam here. This isn't probably a very interesting hand, but this is the guy who had the 8-6 offsuit like a couple of hands earlier. Queens is the absolute nuts against him. And we made quads. How interesting. Next. Aces again. Call Bitch is a player that's been familiar to me today. Pretty tight-ish regular. Undecided on how good I think he is. I think he's maybe not such a good regular, but anyway, this is like pre-flop. I didn't know what to do here. So any of you guys who are playing these games, because normally like aces versus a raise and a call, I would just have jammed. But in fact, let's reload this hand, because this is the question I'd like an answer to, or I'd like some opinions on. So this guy has raised, and he doesn't raise very often. He had like a single digit pre-flop raise. So I think he's pretty strong. And this guy, I don't remember who he is, so he's certainly not a regular. Or not a regular I'm familiar with yet, just calls. Now if he'd made this like 40 pre-flop, which would be like a more standard raise in these games, and he'd have called, then I'd have had just a simple jam, you know, there'd have been over 100 antes over 100 chips in the pot, like 20 odd antes in the pot already, and we'd have had an easy jam. We just jam 100 antes into like a 20 chip pot on happy days, you know. Hope they call, don't really care much if they fold, you know, because you're just picking up 20 odd antes without a fight. But when he makes it 20, what do we do here? Do we still jam? There's only 70 antes in the pot now. Had he made that 40, there'd have been 110 antes in the pot, and we have a trivial shove. But now there's only 7. Do we do what I did, which is make a less than all-in raise? I don't know. Genuinely don't know. This is another not very interesting spot in terms of our hand, but in terms of what do we do? You know, what's our best course of action here? So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I opted to make it 90 chips. Is that better than all in? I don't know. When I make it 90 chips, my hand's face up as an utter monster. Because I wouldn't make it 90 chips with ace king. I would just have ripped ace king. So that this is, I think it just turns my hand face up as exactly pocket aces. Let me get this flop, which is obviously a fucking disaster of a flop. But we have like a stupid low SPR now. We have like an SPR of 1.25, something like that. I don't remember what I did, but I expect I just jammed. Not loving it, really. Not loving it. I think we're probably still ahead, because if someone's flopped 2 pair plus here on this board texture, my read on the population in these games is that they would just jam it, because they wouldn't want any terrible turns to come, and there's fucking lots of them. Basically any 7 through ace changes the board, a club changes the board pairing changes the board. So if you have flopped 2 pair plus here, you're going to want to get all the money in. So when they don't, I'm going to suspect that, you know, we maybe still have the best hand. So I think we should just jam to charge draws, which is what we did. And this guy had the Jack 10, and we got there. Oh, Reg, what are you doing, you fucking idiot? What are you doing? Clicking fucking buttons like a moron. So yeah, let's have a look at the hand from his point of view. He's 4xing with Jack 10 off. It's something I've been doing something similar a little bit, so I can't criticise him too much because I've been going with the. So I'm not anymore. I've gone back to limping, but I have been going with the small open, so I can't criticise him. Then when I make it 90, does he have to call pre-flop when I make it 90? So when the action was back on him, there was about 140 in the pot. I'm asking him to call 70, so he's getting 2-1. I mean, I guess he probably has to call and just hope to drill a flop. I think you should definitely just bet this flop, as we talked about. I think once this flop comes down here, I don't have king queen ever here. I mean, my hand is pretty much just ace ace, or maybe king king. He should probably be aware of that type of thing, or ace king, or queen. He's ahead of everything. Anything I make this play with pre-flop, he's ahead of it all now. But anything I make this play with pre-flop, he's going to have reasonable equity against his Jack 10. Now, if he jams here with his Jack 10, I mean, I have to call with the aces, but I'm not loving it, so I guess it doesn't matter that much. But I guess from his point of view, he knows he's going to have to check call, or check shove or whatever. And again, from his point of view, I think I'd just prefer donking, because who knows, maybe once in a while I find a fucking hero fold with a hand that has equity against him. Very unlikely at this SPR, but yeah, I think he should probably just jam his hand and not check call it off. Next hand, we have 2 9s. We limp. Could have raised there from that position, but we went with a limp. Xing Keng, not familiar with him, don't know him by name. We limp call, we flop a set. A crystal clear check raise here. I think I'm not one for slow playing in this game, really not. But it's a relatively dry board. It's a heads up pot, and there isn't tons to protect against. There's a few gut shots out there. Open ender with the 8-7, Jack 10s, Jack Queens, things like that. You know, by checking, we do allow him to check back his hands like pocket 10s, pocket jacks, pocket queens, etc. But I think like most of the time when I flop a strong hand in this game, I'm just leading out with it. I don't care who the pre-flop raiser was. I'm just leading out. I think it's in heads-up pots. I think it's a little bit different. So we went for the check raise here on a pretty dry board. Hope to try and stack aces or something like that. That was the plan. And we stacked top pair, so that was even nicer. 7-10 off suit on the button. So we flop bottom 2 pairs, which is a very vulnerable hand. It's a limped pot, so it's pretty likely we have the best hand here. I think it's a limp pot and no one's taken a stab. So I think it's reasonably likely that we have the best hand here. The problem is we have an awful lot of things to dodge. Again, any queen, jack, king, ace, 8, 9, 6, all change the board. They all, change the nuts. So basically, well, any card in the fucking deck fucks us except a 10 or a 7, which gives us a full house. So it's like there's not a turn card we really want to see here. So I should definitely bet, and I think I'd like to see myself go with an overbet here. I think just to really push hands that have a ton of equity against me out of the pot, or at least force them to pay over the odds. I wouldn't even mind something as wild as 2x pot here. I doubt I did that. I don't do a lot of 2x potting, but I think anything smaller than 60 I'm not going to like. 45, don't like it, Reg. It's not big enough. So now we have this regular guy from earlier who had the Jack 10 against us. We're going to play a few pots against this guy. Just jams. Literally just jams it in our eye. And he's limped under the gun. So aces is in his range for sure. Pocket aces. Does he lead out with pocket aces? Maybe on this board. So he definitely has pocket aces. The problem is we block the rest of his value range. We're not doing great against his draws. You know, if he does have like a king queen here, then he's only got a gut shot. He doesn't have king queen here. That isn't one of the draws he has. I don't think he has. Maybe king queen hearts, king queen diamonds. Maybe not even the diamond combinations. He can have an awful lot of 9-8 here, Jack 8, Jack 9 suited. If he's got like Jack 8, Jack 9 of hearts, 9-8 all combinations. We block the sets really hard. We block sets of sevens, we block sets of tens, and we block ace 10. Obviously, we block sets of tens and sevens a bit harder, but we block ace 10 too. So, like, I think we're ahead of his value range. So we're ahead of his value range here. I think, you know, we're obviously there's some hands we're behind to. We're behind to the one combination of sevens to one combination of tens and the and his combination to pocket aces. But then we're ahead of like lots and lots of draws he can have. If he's scared here with like an ace queen or an ace king, he doesn't like the board. That might be a thing. I doubt it. It feels like it'd be a ridiculous overplay with ace king, ace queen. But you never know. I've seen plenty of ridiculous overplays in these games. And in the end, I just felt like, well, I kind of have to call here. Because we block his value and there's like plenty of draws out there. I wasn't in love with it. Really wasn't in love with it. We're bottom two pair. And even when we're ahead, we're not that far ahead. Turns out we were drawing dead. Yeah, nice hand for him. Here we have a king and a jack of the same colour. I think pre-flop here, I mean, our hand's going to be pretty heavily dominated by a 12x ante under the gun open. And I think had it folded to me, I'd just have pitched it. Wouldn't have given a fuck. I'd been like, right, let's just get out of here. You know, it's king jack. We put one ante. It's a nice hand, but we don't really want to be playing it against a 12x ante under the gun range. But then this call bitch player comes along again. And then this guy who's a complete whale comes along. I think this guy had like a pretty high VPIP too. So all of a sudden I'm like, well, that hand's kind of pretty. Now we're getting some pretty sexy pre-flop odds. It'd be a shame if we call and this guy rips because we'd have to fold probably. But temptation got the better of me. And I called, I believe. And then this happens. We get this flop. And it checks to us. And again, people rightly in these games are fucking mad on protection bets. I think if somebody had an ace king, or a pocket kings, or a set, or pocket aces, I think all those hands would have bet. He would not have checked to us if pocket aces, pocket kings, pocket nines or pocket sevens were out there. Maybe once in a while ace king might check, but I doubt it. I think at this SPR, anything that's ahead of us at this moment is not checking. So we probably have the best hand, and by fuck could we use some protection, you know. And if someone is just there like pot control or trying to pot control ace or trapping with a hand like ace, then fuck, tough shit. You know, we get our money in bad and we have to hope to get there. The question is just like, what bet size do we choose? I'm not sure what our stack size is here, right? So we've got 8-13. We're the effective stack. So against this guy's SPR of like 2 and a bit. Against this guy, we're 1 and a bit and 1 and a bit against this guy. I think if we're going to bet here, all in is the play. Deny equity to, or not deny equity, because if someone's got a big draw, they're not folding it. That's a ridiculous thing to say. But overcharge people to realise their equity. So I'd like to see me go all in. No, Reggie. Reggie, what are you doing, son? So now we have to call. And this dude just has the double gut shot. Again, I think if I was in his shoes, if I was going to put money in on this flop, I'd prefer to be the aggressor. I wouldn't check. I mean, again, he's doing fine. He's got a double gut shot, so he can't be in terrible equity shape. So I don't hate his get in here. I don't hate it at all. But I think that the check get in is significantly inferior to just the open jam on the flop. The open jam on the flop, he gets me out. I fold, unquestionably. If he open jams this flop, I fold my king jack. And I think that shows the power of the lead bet rather than the check raise. Because once he check raises, he gets to fold out all my air. But problem is, I don't bet air on this flop. So he doesn't have any fold equity with his check raise. Right, so if he'd have just gone all in, he would have had fold equity. But because he's gone for the check raise, he's given himself no fold equity. And that's, I think, I think he's made a mistake here. If he's mentally committed to, right, I'm not folding this hand, I think he's better to just jam and put the pressure on everybody else than it is to check and then raise all in, because his raise all in's got no chance of getting through. And then he just has to get there. Whereas if he just open rips on the flop for his 1.25x pot or whatever it was he had in his stack, 1.5x pot, whatever it was, he just carries so much more fold equity. And getting people to fold king jack here is a fantastic result for his hand, rather than flipping against it or whatever it is he's doing. Instead of a flip against ace jack, he just gets against king jack. He just gets to deny king jack all its equity. So yeah, I mean, getting it in with this hand on this board, no issue with it whatsoever. But I think the manner in which he chose to get it all in is not good. And maybe if I shove, maybe he folds his 10 jack and we don't have to, we deny him some good equity. So that's why I think I should have shoved. Next hand, 10-8 offsuit. Ugh, what are we doing here, Reg? Well, I guess pre-flop we're just completing. When it gets to us, we're getting 8-1 pre. We're in the one away from the button, so I don't hate it. I guess we have two pairs, top two pairs at that. Been potted into on an incredibly coordinated board. You see a lot of these flops where there's just the three cards are straights out there. Like right now, the jack nine's out there, the 6-9's out there for two straights. Is jack nine limping under the gun? Probably shouldn't be very often. Jack nine suited probably can. So there's 4 combinations of jack nine suited that he can have. If he's limping jack nine off, there's another fucking 12 of the fuckers. But it's a spot where we probably have the best hand. Not everyone's limping 7s and 8s under the gun. I know it's in some of the range charts I've seen, it's not always a limp. Some charts have it as a limp, some don't. We have top two pair and a very, very coordinated board. I don't think we can just call here. It's just again, the middle this game, as we know, any card ace through a queen changes the nuts. Well, no, maybe that's not true. The lower cards don't change the nuts, but they change the board. They put 4 to a straight out there, or potentially 4 to a straight. Obviously, a club's not good. The board pairing would be great for me because 10 or the 8 pairing would give me either the nuts or the virtual nuts, and the 7 pairing wouldn't be great because I'd go behind to some of his limped over pairs that are playing this way. But I don't think we can just call anyway. I think it's a spot where we just need to raise. We can't fold. We have top two pairs on a very, very coordinated board. And if it's our turn to be on the wrong end of a cooler, then it's our turn to be on the wrong end of a cooler. I mean, we can avoid these coolers quite simply by just folding pre-flop. But we're getting a good price. This might be another one that's been interesting to any experienced 6+ players. Is the 8-10 a mandatory limp here from the cutoff when there's already 40 antes in there? 40 chips in there. So if there's already 8 antes in there, is the 8-10 a mandatory limp? I don't like doing it. I mean, if someone tells me, no, you can fold there, Reg, I'll be happy. I'll be happy to fold. But anyway, we are where we are now. I think we need to raise. I wouldn't hate seeing a jam from me. Don't think there's any other size we should make it, really. Do go with the jam, and we are drawing to a board that we do not get. Next hand, the ace and the king. Could be an over limp here, could be a raise. I'm fine with both. I don't remember what I did. We did go with the raise. pick up 2 callers, and we flop ourselves a top pair with an SPR of around 3. I don't think this is a spot that calls for an overbet. The board's dryish for this game. There's some straight draws out there, the 10-9s out there, King Queen. There's plenty of there's the open ended with the 10-9 and lots of gut shots. But I think we can just bet a normal size here and then just shove turns that brick out. Say, for example, the turn was an 8 or the turn was a 6 or maybe even a 7. Or obviously a king, maybe a queen. Basically, we're just going to bet flop and probably shove a lot of turns. They'll have to go with a pretty big size. I won't see me go less than 100. 112, I'm fine with that. Just an easy call now. And, wow. Did not remember that hand. So this dude called the 6-7, which is a pretty fucking rotten hand in this game, by the way. It's a rotten hand. He called the 6. He cold called the button pre-flop with 6-7, not closing the action. That's pretty bad. And then he gets. Well, I guess he's up and down on the flop because the ace plays as a 5. But no, he's not up and down, is he? Because there's no card lower than the ace. So he's got 5, 6, 7, 8. So he's only got a 9 for his straight. So it's like a gut shot, really. And it's a gut shot to like the shittest possible end of it. Because, you know, the 9 coming completes some larger straights, like the Queen 10, for example, that I could definitely have in this spot. So yeah, his play's fucking rancid. And we won. On to the next one, 10 Jack. From this position, we can overlimp or raise. I decided to go with the overlimp. Player isolates almost 12 antes. 2 people calling in front of us. I think we have a no-brainer decision here just to call. I'd much rather our hand was suited. But 10 Jack is a pretty damn strong hand in this game. So there's no folding it pre-flop for that. We now flop an open-ender. Now let's see if I'm as good as my word. Because I've been telling people, I've been saying in this video, like when you flop good equity, you know, you want to be the guy putting the money in rather than like trapping or checking and calling and things. So we have a flop here where I'm not sure what our stack is. So our stack is 877. So we're kind of pretty deep with these 2 guys, and you know, not that deep with him. I like an SPR of less than 2 with him. So I think we need to be betting here for sure. If this guy's in there with that aces kings, which is exactly what you can have when he's made the big ISO pre, then we're doing absolutely fine against those hands. We're probably a coin flip, so we get it all in for 437 chips here against him, flipping over 262 chips dead money. We have in my opinion, a very plus EV shove. Even if we're behind to the nuts at the moment, which is like what 7-10, then we still have decent equity against that. We can improve past that hand. I need to be betting here, and I don't really care what size I make it. I'd want to make it big, at least pot, maybe bigger. No, we just went for the full load. And we took it down. And we, without any question, we did not have the best hand there. We had Jack high there. So we've denied a fucking ton of equity there with our overbet. And it's something that's like really important in this game, that equities in now. We've already done a talk about it, so I'm not going to talk about it that much more. But I remember I posted a hand to my like Facebook chat group maybe last week, where I led out in a multi-way pot with just an open and straight draw, and I got there and I asked them about it. And back then, and I'm not sure if the attitude towards the players changed since then, most players I don't think I would have led there. You know, what's the reason beyond, you know, about leading out? And that was just like, well, I want to deny equity, and if I can't deny equity, to get it in with a hand that has reasonable equity. People have got a hand that's just not willing to fold. Then, time to get there, I guess. And at the time, I think some of the guys were like, well, not sure I like it very much. I think we should be checking there and maybe check shoving. But I just think check shove doesn't work very well in these games as a semi bluff, because I don't think it generates anywhere near enough fold equity, because people tend not to be betting in these games unless they have a hand that they like a lot and that they're probably not going to be that prepared to fold. So if you're like going for like semi bluff raises, I think a lot of the time, like if I'm in position with a draw and someone's betting to me pretty big and I don't think I have fold equity, then sometimes I will just call, because let's just try and get there, rather than if I think it's a small enough pot where I can raise and have people fold, then I'll do it. But if it's already quite a chunky pot and I think the guy who's betting is pretty much committing himself, then quite often I won't raise. If I've got like a mega strong draw, say a flush draw and an open ender or something like that, I will raise then. But usually my raises versus bets are with like my best value parts of my range, not necessarily semi bluffs, because I think semi bluffs work best in this game against checks or before people have acted. I think once if you get to a flop and someone's bet 3/4 pot and it's been like raised pre, you don't think you're going to get folds, because I just don't think you are anywhere near enough. So then it's just a question of, am I getting decent odds to call? If not, then is my equity so great that I have to jam? And if it's not so great you have to jam and you're not getting good odds to call, then you just have to fold, I guess. But yeah, I think I like how I played this hand. Seize the initiative, put tons of pressure. I mean, if someone's in here with pocket aces on this board, they're not loving life. They're not living life, because they know if they call, they're going to have to dodge a lot of shit, because they're either beat or their opponent's got a ton of equity. If I was in his shoes and somebody just like went all in on this flop, I would probably call with aces, probably, but I wouldn't fucking like it. And I could certainly see myself folding sometimes. And if I was in his shoes and it went like, say, this guy bet and this guy went all in, then I could probably get away from the hand. He just puts aces in or overpairs in some really, really shitty spots. And anytime you can do that with equity, then we should, I think, be striving to do it. Another offsuit hand here. We're on the button. This is not a hand I would ever choose to play, but we have to play it. We're on the button. We flop the nizzles, which is very nice. Or virtually the pocket tens and pocket tens beats us, but that's all. So here we have been led into by a player that I wasn't familiar with, and that's certainly no recognition of now. He's bet half pot. Yeah, and I don't really know what to make of that. But we have a full house. And there's not lots of draws out there. There are some draws out there. Like 9-6 is a good shot, 9-8's an open ender, Jack 8, Jack 9, all good shots. Maybe people are out there with a random 7x that we can get value from too. Maybe 10x doesn't fold, even though it should when we raise. But I think we have a pretty mandatory raise here. This pot's small. I'm not a fan of slow playing in this game. I think we just like make strong hands or make strong draws and just be aggressive. That's easily the best way to play the game. So I think we just need to raise here. Don't think this hand's going to be super interesting. We make it 99. Don't know why I chose that number. He cold calls. So when he cold calls here, he's a regular. If this was a whale, you could be like, 8-9's out there, Jack 9 suited's out there, still things like that. He's a regular. So this guy has a 7 or pocket tens. There's nothing else he has. Turn to queen, so queen 7's got there, but he never has queen 7. It's a limped pot, so his limping range is going to be stuff like aces, kings, pocket queens. Now gets there. I think ace queen, and that easily folds the flop. So I think the queen is pretty much a brick unless he has queen exactly. So I'm pretty comfortable still. He goes all in. We have the easiest call, and we need to dodge 3 outs, and we do. Not many hands to go now. That's 4 more hands to go. We have the kings. We're going to make a big raise. Oh, I remember this hand now, actually. This guy here is a... When he plays every day, he's a regular in terms of he plays every day. He's got like a 40-odd VPIP, very low pre-flop raise. He limped in under the gun off this stack. He's not folding. He's just not folding. Everyone's limped in so far. There's already 6 genties in the pot, and I know this guy is almost never folding. Because he's just limped off such a short, well, or sort of like a relatively short stack. He's got less than 40 antes. Do people limp fold off 40 antes? I doubt it. Not very often anyway. So we used to have... At the time I identified this as like a clear jam spot. Isolate this guy. This guy's never folding. Isolate him against the rest. We don't want to go multi-way here with kings. And he had just about as bad a shape as he could be in. And took down a 50 ante pot. Bit of ace king. We've overlimped. A bit too far from the button to want to open. I think overlimping's still fine here. We flop a top pair on a board with infinite straight draws. We check. I think I'm fine with that. We don't want to be playing. We're not looking to play a big pot here. When it checks through, I think betting this turn's fine. Try and get a little bit of value for our hand. We get called in about 1 million spots. So this is, I'm going to make, remember this hand now, we're going to make a play here that I almost never make. I think the 6 is almost a brick except for the button, because it's a limped pot. They have every 6x combination in their range. Whether they call the turn with just a random 6, I don't know. If they have like a 6 that makes 2 pair on the turn, like a jack 6, 6, 9, that type of thing, I think they maybe raise. This guy at least as a regular. So if anyone's going to have a 6, it's going to be this guy or this girl. But I'm not too concerned about the 6. Queen 10's just not out there, has played. There's not a chance Queen 10's out there. King Jack's probably not out there either. So like King 9 suited, Jack 9 suited, I think they probably bet the flop. They thought the flop checks through. So I'm relatively confident our ace king's the best hand. Don't really want to check call because I just don't think there'll be that many bluffers out there. So I actually went for a very rare play. I went for I think it's a quarter pot or maybe slightly more than quarter pot block bet. You should try and get called back like King Queen, King 10, stuff like that. Less than a quarter pot, it's actually like a 5th pot or something, was it? And we did, we got called. Not a super interesting hand, but it does demonstrate a very rarely used play in these games. Another 10-7 off. These haven't been ending well, these offsuit 10x hands, have they? Oh no, the last 10-7 did actually. We made a full house, didn't we? So again, we're just going to check back the button. It's a hand I wouldn't choose to play, but yeah, where we are with it. We flop top and bottom pair on a very wet board. We get led into by a player who, I don't remember, at the time I would have had stats on him, but he's not springing readily to mind, so he can't be a regular. Although sometimes there can be some regular people with regularish stats with these PP names that obviously, because they're just a PP name and a number, you're not going to remember all of them. I think we just need to raise here. Don't love it again, but he's limped. He can have some overpairs that are now just shitting the knickers. I don't think there's much to say about this other than we've covered all these situations earlier in the video. So, Reg, what are you doing, you fucking asshole? Reggie. What was I thinking here? I don't know what I was thinking here. This is terrible. I'm not happy with this play. It's just a slam dunk raise. Reggie, you prick. Not happy with myself. We get a nice turn, so we get bailed out by the deck. That bet should have been bigger. Reggie being a little legend here. Then you get check min raise. What a clusterfuck this hand is. What an utter clusterfuck all round this hand has been. Jam flop reg, bet bigger turn reg, try not to get check min race reg. I mean, what do we do here? We just go with our hand and whatever. What do we lose to? 10-8. What an absolute abortion of a hand. And he does have the 10-8. Fucking marvellous. Reggie. That was a clusterfuck. Not proud of that one. I am not proud of that one. Here, Hunter VA is a maniac. We are going to want to see flops with him. We're not going to want to squeeze and reopen the betting, so we just call. We flop open-ended. Let's see what, when he gets to us, see what our options are. Right, so this guy has just... He's min bet because he's Hunter, isn't he? And Hunter does weird things. Not familiar with this guy. This player's another whale. This player, as we said before, I think he's a good regular. I think he's probably better than me. Almost certainly better than me. But we have an open-ender and we need to be raising here. And there's 90 chips in the pot. I'm on board with anything 80 chips or more. And once we make it 80 chips, there's no folding our hand. We can't raise fold here with our open-ender to the nuts. So 80 to 110, I'm happy with. Too much to go all in. We can't be going all in just yet. I think it'd be too much of an overbet. 70, Reg. You've been shit. All these hands are chronological. So towards the end of the session, I was clearly not playing as well as I can do. Not a great turn. So what do we do here? We've got this Hunter guy who's like min bet called. So he has a better hand than us, but his hand isn't very good. He doesn't think it's very good because, trust me, if he had a nice big hand, he would not be just calling versus our like raise of his min betting. Well, he wouldn't be min betting to begin with, and he wouldn't just call. So he hasn't got a very good hand, but he's almost certainly got better than Jack High. Andy Larkin's interesting because on the button here, he'll be fully aware that Hunter's a weapon. And then he said me raise them. How many traps is he going to have here on the button? He doesn't have pocket queens because it's a limp pot. He doesn't have pocket kings because it's a limped pot. He can have pocket sixes. He probably can have king queen. But I think it's more likely to be sat there with a hand like queen jack, queen 10 suited, king 10 suited, maybe some king jacks, things like that. I think you have a lot of like one pair hands with like that had backdoors on the flop, and those backdoors, apart from like the suited and spade varieties, haven't improved. So can we bet again and get Andy Larkin off like a king 10, queen jack, queen 10 type hand? And I guess I thought we could, because I stuck my balls to the wall and just went all in. Happy that if we get called, we're going to have like... If we get called here, we're probably going to have around... It's a rule of 3 and 6 in this game, isn't it? So we're still going to have 25% equity when called. So we're like over betting 560. So we're betting like almost 2x pot. So what this has to work, what, like 60% of the time, this bet to be profitable? Does it work 60% of the time? I'm not sure. But of the 60% of the time, say it doesn't work. Say it only works half the time. It only works 50% of the time. So it's a losing bet in terms of like getting the fold it needs to get. But of that half the time we get called, a quarter of that time, we're going to make the nuts. We're going to make the nuts a quarter of the time. So I think it's still I don't think it's a hugely plus EV shove. But, if people have, once people start folding like 60, 70, 80% of the time, then it's I think there's a lot of EV in this shove. I think it's not super high EV, but I think it's certainly better than checking, and it's certainly better than like potting it and then just calling it off. I think the overbet it makes it even higher. If we like make it say 200 here, then King X is still in a very tough spot. But it might just be, oh, fuck off, and just calling. Whereas when we make it, it's a far bigger mistake to call 560 here with King X than it is to call 200 with King X. So, and I think Andy Larkin would probably know that, and I think he can definitely, fold a lot of his one pair. Like his King Jacks, King Tens, Queen Tens, Queen Jacks, Queen Nines, maybe even Ace Queen, although he probably raises that pre. I think we get him to fold. Well, we get both of these guys probably to fold better hands. And yeah, so again, the common theme for the video is realizing when your hand has good equity post flop, and then using that equity to be aggressive, to deny or to try and deny your opponents their equity share. That's kind of what I've been working on lately in my game post flop. I've been doing a lot more limping, so we get a lot more of these like more favourable SPRs post flop. Because I wasn't the last video I was saying I was raising pre, not limping. And pretty much everyone universally said, no, Reg, you really are making a big mistake there. Don't do that, mate. You don't want to be doing it. And when enough people tell me something's not right, I'm not a fucking idiot. I'll be like, right, fine. It's not right. Let's go back to a more well-known and more respected pre-flop strategy. And to be fair, it's been going pretty well, so can't complain too much. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this, because I'm going to do more of these types of videos in the live splits, because I think they're more interesting. Hopefully you guys will like them better than just the live play videos. So yeah, probably I could easily, let's face it, I've found 17 hands in one session. Not all of them have been super interesting, but lots of them have been. I think probably what I'm going to do is just like keep saving hands, and every time I get 15 hands, come and do a review video. And if I can find someone who's playing the game to review them with me, then more's the better. I think there's a chance, if I play enough hands the rest of the day, that Zach is going to join me tomorrow to help me make a video. I'd much prefer it to be a review video than a live play video. So yeah, hope you guys liked it. Please give it the thumbs up. Please take care. Please stay safe. And we'll probably almost certainly see you again tomorrow with another video. Take care, and bye bye for now.